Welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. Every time I hear his name, I have to think about the Beverly Hillbillies. You see, for most of my life, the character on that show was the only Jethro I ever knew. Then suddenly, you're reading along in Exodus 18, and you find out that there was a Jethro way back then, and a pretty important one to boot. This week, we are looking at some of the often overlooked men and women of the Bible, people who acted in small but important ways in the story of God and God's people, but who are often overshadowed by more well-known Bible characters. Today, we want to look at Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses. Again, you'll find most of Jethro's story in Exodus 18, but let me give you a little background first. We know the story of Moses, or at least we think we do. However, some of the big events in Moses' life often overshadow some of the smaller things that are also important. When Moses was a young man, he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave, and Moses defended the slave and ended up killing the Egyptian. Fearing for his own life, Moses fled away to the land of Midian, which is across the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt. There he met a man named Jethro and married his daughter, Zipporah. One day, while Moses was out tending to Jethro's sheep, he saw a burning bush and headed back to Egypt to lead the people to freedom. But because it was risky, he sent Zipporah back to live with her father-in-law, with her father, so that she would be safe. Fast forward to Exodus 18, when, following God, Moses has led the Hebrew people to freedom. When Jethro hears about it, he comes to see Moses and brings Zipporah with him to return her to Moses. They greet each other warmly and worship God together. The next morning, Jethro is astounded that all the people with disagreements and disputes gathered before Moses for him to decide their cases. Quickly, Jethro called Moses aside and said, "This is too great a burden for you to bear. Divide up the people by tens and hundreds and set others over them to do this work. You lead them as God leads you." It was good advice, and it's advice the church does and should follow. Jethro advised Moses to delegate the work out so that the whole burden didn't fall on him. And in just that same way, the work of the church is and should be spread out among all of us. It takes all of us, our ideas, our energy, our calling, our zeal, our mission. Together, we do the work of God. Too often in our world of today, we are content to let our money do the acting for us. We are willing to give, but sometimes we don't want to get involved personally. But that's not the message from Jethro. Jethro reminds us that the task takes both. It takes our support, yes. It also takes our involvement. Part of why we look at obscure Bible characters like these is to remind ourselves that even though we might do only small things, those things are important. All Jethro did was offer some guidance to Moses. But it was important and opened Moses up to be able to lead as God led him. That's the kind of difference you make. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.